You should know by now that I'm a very clumsy person. I'm always dropping stuff, including my cameras. And this time I was not so lucky because I broke my newest camera, the one that I use for photography. We'll talk about that in this video, about a new lens that I bought, a couple more things, and I have a Q&A thing going on Instagram right now, so I will be answering to some of those questions here as well. But before we do that, a couple things. The first one is a friendly reminder about my weekly newsletter that I send out every Monday with some random thoughts and all the images and videos that I share on all the platforms during that week. As I said, I send it only once a week, and it's a very convenient way to stay up to date with my work if you enjoy it, so you don't depend on rely on algorithms to show my videos to you or my images to you. If you haven't already, you can sign up following the link in the description down below. And the second one is that I have 3 new prints in the Image of the Month collection. That one that you see there is one of them. I'm gonna show them here too. You can check them out following the other link in the description too. So about a month ago or so, I dropped and broke my Sony a7R II. That's the camera that I use the most for photography these days. I was doing some tests out in the balcony here with the 2 lenses that I had on loan, the 2 Sigma big and heavy lenses, and I was, as I said, just doing some test shots out in the balcony. I had the camera and the 20mm lens on the tripod and I just turned around for just a couple seconds, maybe 3 or 4, and I don't know how, but the tripod tilted a little bit and it fell on the ground. It was a pretty bad fall. Not only I broke the camera, I also broke the lens. Just the lens hood though, but it's a built-in lens hood, so it needs to go to the factory, I guess, to be fixed. Thankfully, I had insurance on that lens, but I did not have insurance on my camera, and that one really hurt. So all the buttons on the back stopped working. I thought they would be just something that got loose, and I tried to fix it myself. I tried to open the camera, but I only got so far. I didn't want to break it even more, so I stopped and closed everything, put the screws back on. So I was debating about sending it in for repair or just buying a new one. But after thinking about it, I decided to just ship it to the shop and give it a try. And after a few weeks, I finally have it back. I gotta say that I miss this camera much more than I thought. I was still going out because it's not because I don't have other cameras to shoot with, but I really miss this camera. I really enjoy shooting with this camera. But it's back now, it's fixed, and everything is working as it should. It wasn't cheap though. It was, I think, around $650, a good chunk of change, but it's still cheaper than buying a new one. There are a couple things that weren't really fixed, like this switch to release the lens. It's a little bit stiff. It's been stiff since I dropped it. But other than that, it takes photos. It takes beautiful photos, and I'm so glad to have it back. By the way, you might have noticed that I have this little lens on. Fuck, is it there? That's Rokinon 35mm 2.8. It's almost like a pancake lens, and I got it to be able to shoot with this camera in a very, very compact package, so I can bring it with me. I bought a new camera bag too, just like a slim bag, so I can bring this camera with this lens and maybe another lens just on little walks, or if I go out for any reason to a coffee shop, so I can still have this camera with me. What else? I've been working hard on my new book. It's still not ready. It's probably like 1 or 2 months away, but it's coming together now. I'm very excited about it. I think it's gonna be a good one. Another thing I'm very excited about is that we might be going on a trip very soon. I'm not sure where yet, but it doesn't matter anywhere. And that's because the vaccination thing is going really fast here in Indiana. Now we might be able to get an appointment in 1 or 2 weeks, and once that happens, we are gonna be going somewhere. And now I'm gonna go over some of the questions that I got on Instagram that might be interesting to you. This is a question that I get very often, and it's a question that I got here a few times from different people, and it's how I pay my bills, because obviously it's not from photography. And it is true, I don't make enough money with this to pay my bills, to feed myself, or let alone anyone else. Even though I do make some money with photography now, which, by the way, thank you so much for your support buying prints and books, because it really means a lot to me. We are living off savings that we had back when we both used to work, my wife and I. Right now, only my wife has a job. She has a remote job that she can do from anywhere else. That's how she can come with me on every trip that I take. And that's the lifestyle that we have right now. And her salary is enough for both of us. And the little amount of money that I make with photography also helps. And that's what we're doing. Many questions about black and white. Why black and white? If I feel like black and white could be limited to my photography and stuff like that. No, absolutely not. Black and white is photography for me. For me, color and black and white are as different as photography and drawing, if that makes any sense. I don't see images in color anymore, if I ever did. So no, it's not limiting. It's what makes photography possible for me. I can't conceive photography in any other way. That being said, a lot of my photos, most of my photos today, they are taken with a digital camera, they are raw files, so I convert them to black and white, but they have all the color information there. So if in 20 years, 30 years, whatever, I decide to switch to color, I should be able to go back to all these images and, you know, just retrieve the color back and bring it back to life if I wanted to. That's not going to happen, but I could if I wanted to. Do you prefer Spain or the US in the winter? Well, they are two very big countries, especially the US. Depending on where you are in the US, the winter can be very different. But if we are talking about Indiana and Galicia, that's where we spend most of our time in the US and Spain. The winters are amazing in both places. As you could see in my most recent videos, we get plenty of snow here in Indiana, which I love because it allows me to create very simple images of these landscapes that are very different in the spring, summer, and the fall. So I love the winter here because of that, because of all the snow and the ice. That being said, I also love the winter back in Spain, in Galicia, because it's very foggy very often, at least in my hometown. I don't have any official numbers, I'm making this up, but I feel like we get at least one very, very foggy day every week on average in the winter. And that is amazing because the fog simplifies every composition. That allows you to create images where there were none before. I just love the fog. But yeah, it's hard for me to choose. I love the snow, I love fog, I love both places in the winter because of that. This is a very interesting question. Are there any photos you regret taking? I thought about this for a while, and no, I can't think of any photo that I regret taking. But I think that's because I follow the rules. Like if it says stay on the trail, I'm gonna stay on the trail. I'm not gonna, you know, step on wildflowers or anything like that just to take a photo. You should respect the rules. And the second reason is because I don't take photos of people, so that doesn't lead to any situations where I could regret having taken a photo where the other person felt uncomfortable or something like that. I just take photos of trees, mountains, rivers. They are usually fine with it. So I don't have any photo that I had taken that I regret having done so. That being said, I do regret not taking so many images that I saw my way to somewhere else, driving the car or just walking or whatever, and I said, well, it's not worth stopping, or it's not worth my time now, but I might stop on the way back. I never do, of course. I'm getting much better at that though. These days I always stop if I see an image that could have some potential. Will you travel differently post-COVID? I don't think so, because the way I travel, the way we travel, we don't usually interact with people on our trips. We just stay in the Airbnb or hotel. When I'm taking photos outside, I'm usually by myself. Those are the situations that I seek. Those are the situations that I like to be in. So I don't think that COVID is going to change any of that, other than restrictions to go to a different country or to a different state. I don't think it's going to change much for us. Advice for someone who is getting started in photography. I was thinking about making a video like this, but as for now, I will tell you that you should get as often as you can, take as many photos as you can, and just keep in mind that this is a very, very long-term thing. It's a lifelong journey, and it takes a long time. It takes a few years to build a good repository, a good collection of images. Don't think that this is something that you can do in a few weeks or even a few months. When you go to a new location, do you get there with some images already in mind or not? I always have some rough idea of what I want to capture, like if I'm going to a lake or the coast. I might be taking long exposures, so I might look beforehand for some lighthouses or some piers or something like that. But once I get there, it's all open. The pier or the lighthouse might not be interesting. I just walk around, just exploring the whole place. And actually, some of my best images were taken this way. I meant to go somewhere else, or I went there for any other reason. I ended up taking those other photos that turned out to be the good ones. Favorite photography book? By far, Minutes to Midnight by Trent Park. Which camera? Any you have with you. But for me, as of right now, my favorite camera to shoot with is the A7R II, as I said, but I also have a lot of fun with the RX100 cameras because I can put them in my pocket and just bring with me everywhere. And by the way, even though I shoot with Sony cameras, that's only because 7 or 8 years ago when I bought my first digital camera, well, the salesperson at the shop sold me a Sony camera and I invested in the systems, and since then I've been shooting Sony, but I enjoy shooting with Fuji cameras too. I haven't tried any Olympus camera yet, and I haven't used a Canon or Nikon camera in a long time. But I mean, there is no specific reason for me to shoot with a Sony camera. I don't think that they are better just because they are Sony or anything like that. Any camera is good nowadays. Seriously, for photography, you can't really go wrong today. What paper and size do you use for your prints? So that's my newest print. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. That print specifically is 8x8. I print in two sizes, 6x6 and 8x8. I really like small prints. I like that you can be close to it and you can still see the whole thing. Big prints, you have to look at them from farther away, so the details are harder to see, and I don't know, they kind of push you away, while these prints are telling you come closer and look at me. As for the paper, I use a Hamemo, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, German etching, and I love it. I've been using that paper for years and I love it. Would you ever see yourself making the investment in a monochrome camera? I don't think so. I would like to use one and to try it, but I really like having the color information in the raw files because I can play with that information in post. I don't know the name of this right now, it's not coming, but when you have the color information in the raw files, you can make reds lighter or darker. You can play with the greens and the blues independently of everything else, and that's something that you can't do if the camera is monochrome because that information is removed. It's never there in the raw file. I'm sure that the dynamic range and the details are better, but those things for me are not as important as being able to play with the colors in post. You can achieve the same results with a monochrome camera, but you're gonna have to use filters, red filters, yellow filters, orange filters, whatever in the field, which is fine, but I really like having the option of doing it in post. What's your dream? Well, this is it. I'm living my dream because I'm doing photography full time. I get to travel and explore. I mean, not as much now with the pandemic, but yeah, I just hope that I can get to do this for the rest of my life and just making images, making videos and sharing them with you. I know I'm not gonna get rich doing this, but I don't need to, I don't want to. I just want to enjoy what I do, and I really love what I do. Are you feeling okay hanging in there? Yeah, I'm pretty good. I mean, I wish we could travel a little bit more and there weren't as many restrictions, but it is what it is. It will pass at some point, I guess, but everything else is just fine and I'm doing pretty good. What have you learned about building your brand? Well, a big mistake I made, and I guess I still make sometimes, is labeling my work, labeling myself. Do not use labels. I think they are very dangerous because they limit you a lot. I branded myself as a film photographer before, and that limited me because it limited me when it came to using other tools like digital photography, which are totally legit and they are just fine. They are as valid as film photography. I have a video where I talk about that there. But yeah, if you label yourself, if you specify that you only do one kind of stuff, if you do want to expand your work, if you do want to do something else, it's going to be hard to get out of that label because you are going to have an audience and they expect something from you and you expect something from yourself as well, and change is always hard. So I would say just call yourself an artist or a photographer and try everything, experiment, and don't limit yourself. Are you going to continue your podcast? Well, I never promoted my podcast at all because I only have like 3 or 4 episodes. It was just that test, and I don't have any plans on doing a podcast right now. I'm already pretty busy with just photography and the YouTube channel, to be honest. What's your go-to focal length? Well, I usually use a zoom lens because my RX100 cameras are zoom lenses, 24 to 70, 24 to 200, but I've been enjoying shooting 35 millimeters on the full frame camera. So what kind of photography besides landscape photography do you like? I love street photography. I love portraits. I really like that kind of photography, even though I don't do it because I'm not good at it, but I do enjoy looking at good street photography and at good portraits. I think that's going to be it for today. This might be already a pretty long video. I hope you learned something new from me, but if you have any more questions about my work, my processes, or about me personally, you can leave a comment down below, and I'm gonna start going through the old comments on my YouTube videos. I have a lot of comments to get back to. It's something that I really want to do, something that I should do, because I really appreciate you taking the time to leave a comment. I do read all of them. It's just that after editing a YouTube video for so many hours, the last thing I want to do is to be in front of a screen for even longer, but I do appreciate you taking the time to leave a comment. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching once again, and see you in the next one.